Hello, hey, what's up? Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast, the best podcast that ever talked about wrestling because we're pretty much the only one. We are busy. We got a lot of stuff to do. We have already done a lot of stuff, so I'm just going to introduce. My name is Podcast Guy. I am joined by Podcast Guy 2 and Podcast Guy 4. Podcast Guy 3 cannot be with us tonight. Podcast Guy 5 is barely ever with us. Podcast Guy 6 pretty much doesn't exist, so forget about him. Anyway, there's some fun, all fun, no bad news in the wrestling world this week. All fun, interesting, have a laugh at news. And, speaking of people to laugh at, we are starting with Ric Flair because we said about a month ago that we weren't going to talk about Mr. Richard Flairion anymore because he's kind of crazy and gone off the deep end, but there's not a lot to talk about this week. So we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. And I really do mean that because this guy is really fishing for attention. And he decided to, I guess, have people stop talking about his fifth divorce that he's going through. He decided to go back to his new pastime of throwing shade at Becky Lynch. And, not that I care or anything, but Rick on his fucking Woo Nation podcast or whatever the fuck it's called, when talking about Ronda Rousey, who recently returned, and we'll talk about because what a return it's been. He said, and I have the quote here, let me read it. Once again, she is not Ronnie. She is Ronda Rousey. Anybody who's stupid enough to call her Ronnie and make a joke of her presence and what she brings to the company is out of their minds. AKA, what is her name now? Big Time Bex. Hey, Ronnie, welcome back. That's exciting. That's really exciting. How about thank you, Ronda, for showing up because I'm not the man anymore. I'm generic. Who am I? Big Time Bex, the last kicker? I don't know. That's really funny because he's like, what's her name now? And then says her exact name and then even says her old nickname. So, great job downplaying it. He doesn't seem to understand kayfabe, I think, which is weird because he's an old timer. So you think he would love that shit. It'd be really weird if Becky Lynch, went up to Ronda on Monday and was just like, oh, thank you for coming back, Ronda. It's fantastic that you're here. Oh, gosh, I didn't hate you 2 years ago, and you didn't hate me 2 years ago, especially because I ruined your babyface run, which, again, we'll talk about later. But anyway, Becky actually responded on Twitter as, there's not many wrestlers better at Twitter than Becky Lynch. But she responded on Twitter, and her quote was very simple, but it was just, work so hard, your heroes become your rivals, then become so good, Ric Flair loses his mind every time you breathe, which is a pretty straightforward way to tie into your current storyline with Lita and then take a jab at Ric Flair. And then Ric Flair really just took a helicopter ride all up and down the fucking roster as he also talked shit about Sami Zayn of all people. Really odd. And when talking about Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville, he said that Knoxville, the only guy on the roster that Zayn could probably beat. If he gets heat with me, he's got to get heat with the marks. I don't know what that means because the marks aren't on your side, Rick. I don't know what you mean. First of all, we're the marks because Mark It Down. We invented the term marks, first of all, and we're not on your side. But then he goes on to say, for me personally, when I got to make small talk to get along with Sami Zayn, that's all I've got to say. When I got to walk through to make small talk with Kevin Owens, who is 10 times a performer and a great guy, who understands and respects who I am, and Sami Zayn kind of easing around in the hallway, and I got to make small talk to connect with them, he's done in my book. So that's the end of the quote. I should have signified when it started and ended. But he didn't make a lot of sense right there. I think we kind of get what he's getting at. And, from multiple people said that Sami Zayn is a pain in the ass, to talk to. He's
not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Not a bad guy.
But just annoying. And not in a terrible way, just in a you know, and the way they played him up like a couple years ago when he was a babyface, and his gimmick was that he wouldn't shut up and all the other baby faces would get annoyed by him even though they liked him. That was his fucking gimmick, and apparently that's kind of what he's like backstage, and that's not the worst thing in the world. So Sami Zayn hasn't responded yet, but like, I mean, at the time we're recording anyway, but this is clearly just an old man who's fallen out of relevancy, desperate to keep the spotlight on him. And, you know, his issue with Becky makes sense because, you know, the same way Becky derailed Ronda's face run, which again we'll talk about later, she derailed any chance of Charlotte ever being face ever again, and it working, you know? So I understand him being bitter about it because it's clear that Charlotte is a little bitter about it, and Charlotte's at least professional enough to like keep it to herself, you know, for the most part, whereas Ric is just, you know, he's doing the Bully Ray of it all. He's doing the Booker T, but worse, because at least Booker T hasn't said anything that like fucked up. He's just said stupid things we disagree with. Whereas like, you know, Bully and Ric are just saying like just bad things. But Rev, you're my fellow Becky guy. What do you think of this old man yells at clouds meme we got going on with Ric Flair?
I was literally going to lead with, if this was one of your Raw rewinds, you would have put the old man yells at cloud meme right next to you. That's what this is. I mean, look, I think everyone used to love Ric Flair. He was, you know, he was the man. You got to be the man. You got to beat the man. And he was one of the most entertaining dudes ever to step inside the squared circle. And he was entertaining all the way up and through about now. Or even a little before it. But like once really the whole Becky Charlotte friendship kind of started to, you know, cool and then completely disintegrate, and Ric started becoming more vocal with his opinions about Becky and her using the man moniker and stuff. And then obviously there's the whole sexual assault things that came out on Dark Side of the Ring. But I think, at least in this conversation, that doesn't necessarily apply, though it still factors into everybody kind of not liking Ric anymore, which is a shame because I loved him. But that being said, the fuck is he talking about? Okay, like I don't understand. Like literally the first thing with Becky is just him being mad at Becky. Like you said, it's kayfabe that Ronda and Becky hate each other. And it's kayfabe that Becky's character would come in, disrespect Ronda, being like, oh, hey, Ronnie, welcome back. Like, you know, not giving a shit or showing her any respect. That all makes sense. Like, what is he doing? And then just, you know, trying to pretend like he doesn't know her name. Like, he clearly does, because he probably, like, reads her Twitter profile for everything that she says. Because at this point, he's just, you know, a troll. That's what he is. So, damn, I don't know. I don't get him anymore. He's probably borderline senile. So, and he's probably, well, he can't drink anymore, but I'm sure he's just at a steady 0.02 at all times, just from the amount of alcohol he's drank throughout his life. As for the Sami stuff, I don't get it. It sounds to me like he ran into Sami one time backstage and they didn't hit off, and now he just doesn't like Sami Zayn. And once again, he's just yelling at a cloud. So, Ric, man, just stop, because you're gonna ruin your legacy, dude, and it's just not worth it. You're gonna say something you can't take back, and you're done. And just stop before that happens, please.
Yeah, old people shouldn't be on social media, and I'm gonna include podcasts in social media right now because you're gonna say stupid shit all the time. Like,
I'm gonna make an exception for the Iron Sheik. I know that's not him, but
yeah, but that's fair. No complaints there. But yeah,
fuck the Hulk Hogan.
It's just so silly. Like, I don't know what this man wants. He really, I mean, I know what he wants. He just wants relevancy. He just wants to be in the spotlight and have people talking about it. Like I said, and like you just said, Rev, like we've already said twice now, like he's pretending not to know her name, but then he says her exact nicknames, and he's saying, saying she's generic. Like, what's generic about her? Becky as a heel right now, which she shouldn't be. We all agree she shouldn't be. But her as a heel right now gets louder cheers than Charlotte has ever gotten as a babyface. Like, ever. Like, it's Becky not getting fully cheered is more than Charlotte's ever gotten. And, you know, I've ragged on Charlotte plenty, but you know what? It's just something that never worked from the start to the degree that they want it to be. They want her to be the face of the women's division, but at the end of the day, she just doesn't have that natural connection with the audience. Like, some people just have it, some people don't. Like, Becky has it, Dan Bryan had it, Punk had it, 2018 Seth Rollins had it. Like, we talked about it on our AEW like live recap the other day, but Keith Lee fucking has it. Like, Hangman has it. Like, that's just, you can't force it. You just can't force it. They tried to force it with Hangman, didn't work, and they stopped trying to force it. It worked. And you know, I think Ric Flair should understand that for someone who's been around this business for so long. So he really is just bitter about it. And also, you know, every week Becky comes out. Yeah, again, this is more the reason why she shouldn't be healed, but like every week she comes out, there's a little girl in the on camera side in the first couple of rows with a Becky Lynch sign, and 9 out of 10 times that sign says the man on it, because you know what? Kids don't give a fuck who won that lawsuit. It doesn't matter that he won that lawsuit. We still think of her as the man because that was iconic. And you know what? Like,
still the shirt.
Yeah, Ric Flair was the man, but like, I don't think when I hear the man, I don't think Ric Flair. I think Becky Lynch. I think, you know, Ric Flair, it's the whole saying. Like, the same way I don't think of Bret Hart as the best in the world. I think of him as the best there ever was, the best there ever will be. It's like when Punk and Jericho call themselves best in the world, it's like, okay, like that's fair. Like with Ric Flair, it's like, bro, you barely ever called yourself the man. It was always connected to the catchphrase, which is a great catchphrase. Not that you invented that catchphrase. Like, I doubt, I mean, not that any wrestler invents real catchphrases anymore, but like, you know, it's all taken because it's just, oh, like no one in your subculture says this, so you could be the first one to do it, you know, and that's whatever. That's just part of any entertainment business. But like, you're just so bitter about, like, why did you sue Seth Rollins then? Like, why are you bitter? It's just because it's the person that your daughter hates now. Like, and really, like, I think they both know it's like once they both are done and retired, they'll be friends again. And I think they both even know that. So like, I think that's why they don't even have a problem hating each other right now. Because like, yeah, it's just temporary. It's just a competitive thing right now. But the guy's losing it, and Sami Zayn is in the spot Sami Zayn should be in, and he's thriving in. Like, yeah, I guess Sami Zayn is annoying, but like, and you got to get to know him to like him, or like he doesn't appeal to everyone. And speaking of that, Podcaster 4, what are your thoughts on all of this?
It hurts that I knew. One, it hurts that I knew I was Podcaster 4. Two, it hurts
Podcaster
that
3's not here. So,
yeah. But why am I podcast? Why are you Podcaster 2?
Oh, because I host more.
Anywho, look, I was there for Flair's retirement match at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels. I really thought as a kid watching that match, I was seeing Ric Flair ride off into the sunset. Can you guys think back? Can you remember that beautiful moment after Shawn pins him and Flair's just in the ring sobbing, and the crowd is just giving him the reception that he deserves? They're giving him the standing ovation that he deserved. And look where we are all these years later. It's not even 5 years later. It's way over 10 years later. And the man just never knew how to walk away. And he still doesn't. I understand that he definitely had a plan. He requested his release from WWE. They granted it, and he planned on going to AEW. Like, that was his deal. That's what was going to happen. And then that episode of Dark Side of the Ring came out, and those plans were derailed. So all Ric Flair has now to keep him relevant is the things he says online, whether it's in his podcast or on Twitter or whatever it is. And the stuff with Becky has always felt petty, because when he was with WWE, he was complimenting her to no end. He was proud to share this nickname with her. He made it clear even back then, you know, the man belongs to him, but he doesn't mind sharing it with Becky. And then the moment he left WWE and he realized AEW wasn't a thing, oh crap, I can't let them keep using that nickname because that's the only way I'm going to make my money. And it's always felt so Bush League. And Danny, it's true. Like, I've never thought of him as the man. I think of the catchphrase with him, but I never just thought Ric Flair, the man. That's not where my brain goes. Like, I associate it with Becky. And I don't need her to be the man. You know, I need her to be Becky Lynch, because that's all that matters. You know, I don't care what nickname we give her. We like her because she's Becky. And I just, God, has Charlotte ever had a nickname? Like,
oh my God, I was going to say
queen.
that earlier. Like, okay, cool. And look how generic that is. There's 2 other queens in the fucking women's division. All right. And at least they're queens of specific suits of cards. Charlotte didn't even fucking pick one.
And I think even then a queen, like, is lesser than, like, an empress that Asuka is. I don't know. But regardless.
Depends on your structure of government.
And there's 3 other, because we have Queen Zelina too. So
exactly.
It's out of control.
I don't want to turn this into a shit on Charlotte segment, because truth be told, she hasn't really said anything. You know, like, thankfully, she's smart enough to keep her mouth shut, at least on social media.
We'll see.
But man, I don't want to see this continue with Flair. His legacy has been tarnished so much in such a short time. And not that I think he deserves a pass or that he deserves to be forgiven, but man, whatever fond memories I do have left, they are just swirling down the drain with every comment he makes. So, Rick, please just do what you got to do. Don't be a dick, man. Stop being a dick.
Yeah, like, he's such. So I wanted to touch on a couple things you said, and just a couple things I wanted to say, but I've kind of forgotten. Like, his comments on comparing Owens to Zayn, I think, really sheds a lot of light on it. He praises Kevin Owens basically for respecting Ric Flair and, you know, treating him like a legend, and he just wants people who are going to fucking suck him off and make him feel good about himself. And, you know, we could all understand why you want to feel that, but the fact that that seems to be like the, you know, the deal breaker for him, I think speaks volumes as to just how much he still needs his fucking ego stroked after decades of it. Like, have you not had enough?
I to bounce off of that too, let's be realistic. Ric Flair is in, like, the public eye outside of wrestling because nothing of that has to do with wrestling. None of the reason why Ric Flair is popular in the larger society is because of wrestling. It's because the man's a meme. Like, him showing up in, like, rap videos, him showing up in commercials. Like, I guarantee you most people who know Ric Flair don't appreciate him for being the 16-time world champion, or at least not in a wrestling sense, you know? It's the guy became what he is because he's the kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, jet flying, limousine riding, like blah, 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 blah. But that became a meme in society. And that's why Rick thrives, because that's that facade that he wants everyone to actually think is real.
I wouldn't even call it a meme.
Nothing from wrestling. Like, no rapper who wanted him. They didn't watch his matches in WCW. They just know the catchphrases. They know him strutting. They know him elbow dropping his jacket. Like, they know him from WWE more than NWA or WCW or anywhere where he was the man, like actually would have been the man. I'm sorry, Rev, what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I wouldn't even call it a meme. I almost feel like it just became a part of pop culture in a way that most wrestling doesn't. Like, I think the only other person, or the other two, I think would probably be Stone Cold and The Rock. Maybe you can include DX Suckett in there, but like,
I would throw Hulk Hogan in there too.
oh yeah, Hulk, back then. But like Flair, like really, there were a lot of rappers who actually kind of looked up to the way he carried himself because he, was wearing the nice suits and had the planes and the chains and the automobiles, not to make a joke there, but like, and the Rolexes and everything. And they still do. Like the dude's influence on just the city of Atlanta alone are huge. So like, I wouldn't just call it a meme, but I think now at this point, he's almost just a parody of himself in a bad way.
Yeah. And, I said the name Hulk Hogan, and man, those guys are starting to have like some of the worst characteristics in common with each other. But like, I don't know, to real quick, just as always, as I have to do, I'm obligated to do, just to defend Becky a little more, just a quick comparison, right? Like, you're going to call her generic, but like, and since she's been back, and again, she shouldn't have squashed Bianca. I don't think that was the right move, and she shouldn't be a heel. But because of her, people genuinely thought Liv Morgan could win the Rumble. She wasn't really the favorite, but she was like second or third on the list of potential winners.
Dark horse pick.
And that would have never happened otherwise. So like, that worked. And you know what? She's now, she gave Doudrop her best match on the main roster and the most serious anyone's ever going to take her. So there you go. There's 2 checks right there. And now she's in a match with Lita. Granted, it's at Saudi Arabia, so that's unfortunate. But in 1 promo or 2 promos, I guarantee this build is better already 2 weeks in than the entire Ronda Charlotte build is going to be, because Becky has a character. Becky has a personality, and those, again, 2 back-to-back weeks. Ronda comes out on Monday, cuts the blandest, most boring promo, which again, we'll get to, but Becky comes out, immediately injects life into it, saves that promo, and then saves Lita when Lita comes out, because Lita's fantastic and super likable, not the best promo. And this past Monday, cuts the most generic WWE written for you promo. Becky comes out, gives an element of character, says, "This is unfair to me. I have to fight my heroes." You know how messed up it is to have your hero try to take everything from you? And that's great line, great character motivation. It's already given the story immediate direction to the point where they don't even really need to add any more. That could be it. Compared to Charlotte and Ronda's interaction on SmackDown, why do they hate each other? Why are they mad at each other? Why does Ronda really want to go after Charlotte? Charlotte has no character. Her character never connects to the story because her character is, I am Charlotte. I am a robot. I am the best. That's it. So there's nothing there. But you want to call Becky generic. Anyway, that's a little too much of a tangent on what I didn't need to go on the SREF.
I was going to say, before we move on, I did have a question for both of you. I guess maybe more James, though, because he understands backstage workings a bit more than all of us. But do either of you think that what Rick is saying might reflect poorly on Charlotte backstage?
Danny, you could go first.
I don't think so at this point. I think if Charlotte's own behavior has reflected badly on her and she's the one getting the Ronda match at Mania, I don't think it matters at this point.
I agree with Danny. I think at this point, WWE has shown time and again that they are willing to bend over backwards for Charlotte. I mean, they granted Andrade's release to make her happy. They granted Rick's release to make her happy. And
they gave her Ronda to make her happy.
Exactly. They gave her Ronda because they see her, I don't want to do this because it hurts me, but she is the Roman Reigns of the women's division.
Oh, definitely. Woman Reigns, as they call her on this Reddit.
And, I just like Roman could probably get away with anything, although by all accounts, Roman is a great backstage leader. Charlotte can get away with anything. She's shown it. She got into an actual fist fight with Nia Jax on TV, and Nia got fired. I mean, granted, probably deserved, but still, we never heard about Charlotte getting any heat for that.
Yeah.
Charlotte,
the title thing too with Becky, the title exchange nonsense too.
Yeah, Charlotte legit in that bit with exactly the title exchange with Becky. Even going backstage, she was disrespectful to Vince. That she just walked by him, and I think the report was she left the arena. Like, she gets away with this time and again, and it's because they think she's what we want to see, or they want her to be what we want to see. So no, even if people are pissed about what Ric's doing, Ric is Ric at this point, and Charlotte is no longer Ric Flair's daughter, even though Ric treats it like that.
And you know what? I'll hate on Charlotte so the cows come home, and man, are they fucking Spider-Man Far From Home right now. But to me, at this point, I'll take Charlotte over Ric. Like, still, like at this, like she has become the superior Flair to me because of, well, one, because of how much she shoved down my fucking throat, but because God, Ric has really gone off the deep end. But, and even to what you were just saying, James, like, I watched Becky on Stone Cold's podcast, and she did talk about that incident. She even said, like, ahead of time, she's like, I knew that she was gonna pull something like that. I knew it, and Charlotte still gets away with it because, that doesn't mean that the locker room doesn't resent her, that she doesn't now have like enemies and people who don't like her, and I hate the mentality of people with haters, and they think just calling them haters dismisses their criticism of the person. I just don't think that's how that works. And speaking of rap culture and Ric Flair's influence on it, I think that's something that rap culture's influence has they've used turn the term haters into a fucking like safety blanket for taking criticism. But and then I wanted to say this a while ago, and this has gone off the rails, but this is the thing we're going to talk about the most because everything else is like small fries compared to this. But I mean, Ric Flair's kind of not a good person, right? I think that's just we've kind of almost glossed over that because we're looking at it from a wrestling fan perspective. But like, bro, even Dark Side of the Ring aside, which should not be put to the side, but let's say it's all true, and none of, or Ric Flair is telling the truth, and none of that's true, and and him and Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein, they're all innocent men and all that. Let's say that he's still the guy that got JR fired because he was so drunk at a fucking SummerSlam panel, and JR couldn't handle the intoxicated old man, so he got fired. Like, and also, to ease up and go back into a wrestling fan perspective, I lost so much respect for Ric Flair as a wrestler the second he showed up in TNA after his retirement. That was the greatest retirement ever, and it was fucking ruined. Like, so, and that's why I was never a big Shawn Michaels guy. But one thing that will always have, and that's just because of like time periods I was watching between like when I stopped watching and like, but like Shawn Michaels retiring and staying retired and pretending the Saudi Arabia match never happened, like, I gained so much respect from him. He's the only wrestler that ever truly just walked away and, and never wrestled again until the Saudi Arabia match, but I get it, blood money and all that. But like, like Ric Flair as a wrestling fan, like he lost my respect for that. As like a person, he's done plenty of things. Like, this isn't new. This is just who he is. And like, I don't think that being one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, exonerates you from this shit, like maybe, I think we can all agree to some extent that OJ probably did it, and him being a great football player doesn't make up for that. You can separate the two, like I can enjoy WrestleMania 20, but I won't advocate for Chris Benoit being in the Hall of Fame. The same way, like I can watch the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair match and still enjoy it for what it is. But like, Ric
Side note.
Flair,
Side note, OJ is in the Hall of Fame.
Jesus.
of course he is. No surprise, you know.
Yeah.
But Barry
Pete
Bonds
Rose
can't
isn't
be.
in the
Barry
fucking-
Bonds
I'm not
can't
getting
be in the
Pete
into
fucking
fucking
Hall of Fame.
Rose. Ugh.
I'm not getting into that argument. I will say though, ESPN did a 30 for 30 on Ric Flair a while back now. And it's good. And this is well before any of the Dark Side of the Ring allegations or stuff.
Yeah.
So, but he like comes out at a certain point, and this was back when he was still fairly likable. He was like, yeah, I was a bit of a terrible person, like, you know, involving a lot of my life that wasn't wrestling. So, like, there was a point where he was owning it, but now he's kind of back and then just being a schmuck thing. But you're right, Dan. He, outside of the ring and outside of wrestling, he isn't like the best guy. And I'll kind of forgive the TNA stuff only because I got that Jay Lethal promo.
Like,
But
all
that,
right,
he didn't have to wrestle for that to happen.
Yeah.
That's
But-
true. Yeah, the wrestling part of it.
see, this is what I'll say, and I don't want to get too deep into it because it's going to distract from the point.
Oh, we're so deep in the woods.
I know. I was forgiving of the TNA stuff because Rick was very clear. He did not want to retire. WWE forced him to retire.
Yeah.
And
I think they made the right choice. But
I agree. No, I wholeheartedly agree. But even then, I think Rick was still paying at least 3 alimonies. I understand a guy saying, hey, I need to keep working. He could have done it without ever lacing his boots up ever again. I totally agree. But if he was pushed into a position he didn't want to be in, I can't be mad at him for then saying, well, I'm not going to really stick to it. But it also isn't better by the fact that his run in TNA was fucking terrible. And other than the Jay Lethal bit, offered nothing to his legacy. But whatever.
yeah, like I get it. And, just like to anyone who wants to defend Ric Flair, you're just being biased. You can't separate the character from the man, and that's understandable. You know, we all have our people we're biased for, as I've shown defending Becky till the fucking death of me. But like, everyone, divorce is a part of life. You know, it's very good. It happens. But if you get divorced 5 times, you're the fucking problem. Like, good guys don't get divorced 5 times. Once or twice, maybe, you know, but like, if you're on your 5th wife and it doesn't work out, it's never going to work out for you, bro.
Larry King seemed a decent fellow, and he had, I think, 10.
Who?
Larry King.
Sure. Yeah, we'll say that. I was thinking of someone with 7 wives, but I don't want to get too much into that. But yeah,
moving on.
You're not the best guy, Rick. Like, and just shut up. I get it. You know, you're trying to do a whole like, you know, Tucker Carlson getting mad at stuff because controversy is the only thing that gets views, you know, and that's the only way, because no one wants to hear you say nice things about the people you worked with. They want to hear you talk shit, and that's how you're going to get views. But like, just drop it, man. But anyway, that's the majority, the honest majority of what we're talking about today. But some other fun stories, and I'm going to jump around a little bit because I mentioned her name like 4 times already. So maybe you didn't hear, but at the Royal Rumble, Ronda Rousey returned, and she won it, and she went into a feud with Charlotte. So now it sucks, and her return is a waste. And now I've immediately turned on her, and you know what? Ronda's bitter about it. And you know what? We didn't need reports to figure that out. It was quite easy to see, because she's supposed to be a babyface, because conveniently, the 2 people she was facing in WrestleMania before she left are both heels now. So she was supposed to be this babyface. She came in after winning the Rumble. She came in on Raw, cut the worst promo of her life. Not that she's cut many great ones, but God, this one was, she just seemed like she didn't want to be there from the start. She seemed like she hated the fans when she was supposed to be the babyface, and it was lifeless. And like I said earlier, Becky came out and brought some life into the fucking segment, but she was reportedly pulled aside after that and, told to, for lack of a better term, WWE pulled her aside backstage and told one of the toughest women on the planet to smile more. And not in a condescending way for once. One of the few times on record where a girl being told to smile more is not, a little bit misogynistic. It's because she's supposed to be the good guy, the likable one, the baby face, the top female baby face in the company right now. And she was very much not likable. And on SmackDown, she came out smiling a little bit more, which is a slight improvement, and seemed to want to be there a little bit more. So I guess, the message got through to her, and she even addressed it on her Facebook gaming stream, because she's, who doesn't stream games, especially when you're a wrestler. It's just what you do now. But she addressed it on her gaming stream. She said, it's hard not to take it personally from the fans, because I don't go out there. I do go out there as a character, but I am also actually Ronda Rousey. So I don't play Ronda Rousey on television. I just am Ronda Rousey. So sometimes I take it personally from the fans, not so much from the wrestlers, the fans, I do. And to a degree, I understand, because, in Ronda's defense, she didn't really do anything wrong. She was just not Becky Lynch, and that's a lot of women's problem in WWE, is that they're not Becky Lynch, but, it wasn't like the way we turned on Charlotte. Yes, Becky was the catalyst for that, but that was always going to happen because, woman reigns, as you said, Rev. But with Ronda, it just was, hey, we just like this person more. So now we choose her over you, so we're booing you and that was, and not even like a fuck you boo. It was like this is what we want boo, but you're the bad guy here. So I get why, but there's no way, the face of women's MMA and for a while the most famous UFC fighter on the planet, and person who's been in movies and done all this stuff and been in the public spotlight for so long, wouldn't have thicker skin than that she couldn't take that from the fans. Are you kidding me? Also, it's just, again, I think I explained it very well, is that it really wasn't personal to Ronda in this case. She's not Roman, she's not Charlotte. It really wasn't personal with her. Just how it was. And, the same way, hey, Batista had to deal with the same thing, and he really didn't handle it well either. He didn't handle it this poorly, but so James, you've been on TV before in the show Made. So you can understand what this is like. So you give us a little insight on, how it feels to have the public eye on you and have a public judging you, and elaborate on that a little bit.
All right. I had no intention of discussing this, but sure. I can actually say, because after I did my TV work, I had a lot of people who their favorite pastime for a while was just getting online and shitting on me. Any form of that. Some genuinely angsty teenagers. And, I definitely didn't react well to it when it happened. But hey, what's crazy about that? I was 16 years old. And my hormones were raging. So yeah, I could have maybe reacted to things better. But I'm also not one of the most famous people in my profession. And I'm also not playing a character the way Ronda is. And I would like to be clear. I followed Ronda even before WWE. I watched her in UFC. I watched her movies. I watched Ronda Rousey, the person. And Ronda has always had paper thin skin, and a glass jaw to go with it. But I could say it.
I was just laughing because it's so fucking true.
If
Because I can see the knockout in my head of how I was just dropping her. Oh
And
God.
like, I have all the respect in the world for what Ronda did accomplish. You know, uh she turned the female, she made the women's division of UFC because of her success, so many more women got opportunities. And that's truthfully why she got pushed out of UFC, because her success brought in people that were honestly better than her. And I'm going to be I want to speak very carefully about what I'm going to say. But I lost a lot of respect for Ronda Rousey when, after her first loss, I think it was,
The home?
yeah,
Yeah, that was her first loss.
yeah, she went on a talk show and explained how the loss was so devastating to her that she contemplated killing herself. Now, and this is no fun. I'm not being silly. This isn't character stuff. Something of that magnitude should not be joked about. Killing yourself, depression, that is not stuff to be made light of. But Ronda Rousey is somebody who herself, she touts herself as a role model to little girls, to children, to women in general. And after suffering her first defeat, the first defeat of her career ever, she said that she was so devastated that she couldn't go on. I think that's a big indicator of the type of person Ronda is. And again, please, guys, I understand how depression works. I understand how mental health is very fluid. But this is now the same person who can't handle her character on TV being booed when she wasn't supposed to. No matter what Ronda did, when she was a babyface, a heel, any of it, that's not her. That's not her. She's a character in WWE. And it's, if this was the first time, I could say, you know what, she was just out of her element and it took her out of it. But this is just who Ronda is. She's somebody who needs the constant approval of the people around her. And when she doesn't get it, she kind of leaves.
There is a cult of Ronda Rousey.
Yes.
And the number one follower is Ronda Rousey.
That is well said.
Anytime she has any sort of failure, she has a very difficult time dealing with it. Now, and granted, I understand, like, when she bought into her own hype in UFC and then took her first loss, I can understand her falling a long way. So did it end up being a little extreme? Maybe yes, but everyone reacts differently, and that's okay. And I'm glad she found her way back. But in WWE, I think she might think that, like, there's this bubble around Ronda Rousey that, okay, you are now scripted to be this, and everyone's going to love you. And the cult of Ronda Rousey will grow and rise, and it'll be okay. But the crowd doesn't follow what WWE wants to do all the time. Obviously, we've seen it time and time again, from Daniel Bryan to whoever, like
Kofi Kingston.
To Kofi Kingston, to booing Roman. The crowd doesn't, they do what they want to do. It doesn't matter what WWE's plans are. And yeah, they don't want to fucking see you. Well, that's not true. They want to see you. They don't want to fucking see you be this character. They want to see you, probably go after Becky as a heel. They don't like this storyline. They don't necessarily like what they're doing with your character. So yeah, they're going to boo. And maybe they're not necessarily booing you. They're more likely booing the booking and the idiots backstage. But it's part of wrestling. You're going to get booed even when you're not supposed to. And if she's not going to be able to take that in and process it in a healthy way, then she might not be cut out for this at all.
Yeah. And like you just said, like, we're not necessarily booing you. It's, the presentation or the booking, but I think she's going a long way into, like I said earlier, it wasn't personal, but if it becomes personal, it's on her. It's because she's making it personal, because now she's kind of becoming unlikable, where it was just like, hey, you're just not the character we wanted to cheer for, and that's that.
She's
But now
got
it's
to.
like,
Oh, sorry, Danny. She's got to
No.
figure out how to separate herself as a character and as a person. You know, people who use their real names in wrestling, like I think I was mentioning before the show, like Kurt Angle would be somebody like that, because he had a slightly similar trajectory where he was on a grandstand. He won gold medals. People knew who Kurt Angle was, and then came into WWE and was a heel and made an ass of himself all the time. But he was able to separate himself from those things.
Yeah.
So, and she's not really able to do that yet.
If I may, I think the best example of this is John Cena.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say that. I was going
to
say
my other example,
and,
but
like, pop you up, but
I'm so sorry.
Well, I went with Kurt because I think, you know, again, similar, you know, she was a athlete,
of course.
She was an Olympian too. But Cena is also another, obviously the most polarizing one.
Cena is somebody who legitimately, at this point, has, I think, granted 700 Make-A-Wishes. And by all accounts, China aside, Cena is generally regarded as a good, upstanding guy. People like him. But
a little weird.
When he was
not Alex Riley,
a little weird.
A little weird, but who the fuck cares what Alex Riley has to say? Kevin Owens certainly didn't. But every time John Cena got in the ring, fans booed the shit out of him. Like, in more recent years, there was the let's go Cena sucks. But for years, it was just Cena sucks. That's just what it was. And I'm sure that wasn't fun, because that's not what they wanted for Cena. They wanted Cena to be the good guy. Like, before this Roman stuff, it was Cena. But Cena was professional enough to say, hey, this is different than this. They're not booing John Cena, the human being. They're booing the character, because this isn't what they want out of me, but I'm going to keep doing it. Ronda, I don't know. They're both in the Fast and the Furious franchise. Maybe they need to compare notes.
Yeah, I do think it's I was gonna say that, but in a more joking and I guess insulting the Ronda kind of way. Where
do it, just do it.
It's too late now. I was just gonna say, like, more or less that imagine, you know, Cena acted like this when he first started getting booed, like, you know, as opposed. But then again, you know, I don't even think Cena's the ideal example of how to handle the situation. I mean, in terms of from a personal perspective, yes, he always took it on the chin and kept going and never let it get to him. But I also think that you shouldn't, you know, ignore it and never do anything about it. You know, not that Cena wanted to. It's not like Cena didn't want to, you know, try going heel at some point. But, you know, from a handling perspective from the company, I think they actually handled the crowd turn on Ronda better than they ever did with Cena.
I agree.
Or Roman until recently. But, like, you know, that is the way to do it. And I get it. It's just not what you want. But, you know, Ronda, good luck dealing with the match that no one's going to care about at WrestleMania. Crowds at WrestleMania, if you react too loud for this match, I'm going to make fun of you on my reaction stream, because especially because a lot of you guys are British, so come on, you're better than that.
You know what's crazy? I do, like, it sucks to say, but I actually think Ronda and Charlotte are more capable of having a good match. I just think it's like, do I want to watch Stone Cold wrestle Bret Hart, or do I want to watch Stone Cold wrestle The Rock? I
don't think that comparison works, because Bret Hart was at least, like, over, and, you know.
Fair.
But I get what you mean. Like, the ones, Bret Hart in terms of personality, like, you know, like, it's far less exciting and, you know, compelling. But I think they'll be lucky to reach that level. And obviously, look, Charlotte is the best wrestler. Well, not the best wrestler in the women's division, but is debatably the best wrestler. And I don't think she is, but it is debatable. And, like, I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say you're wrong if you think she's the best female wrestler.
I agree.
But, you know, she's definitely top 5, probably top 3, and maybe even just the best one. But it doesn't matter. like I say this, one of my criticisms of AEW is like, yeah, this wrestler is great, but like, that's not enough. Like, that's, you know, not to be like WWE about it, like, okay, you're a good wrestler, but it's like nowadays, yes, because so many are good wrestlers, it's not unique anymore. Like 15 years ago, yeah, that's an identity, is like, you're really good at wrestling, you'll stand out more, and the crowd will attach to you now. But I was like, well, I mean, that everyone is, and you know,
I agree.
it doesn't matter how good Charlotte is, she can't make you care. Like, she lost that ability to really make you care. Like, her match with Asuka at WrestleMania was great, you know, but the wrong person won, and it doesn't matter. It's hard to look back at that match favorably. Whereas like the triple threat match with Sasha and Becky from 32, I want to say, that was the best match on the card, and the right person won, and that person was Charlotte, and that was okay. And like, no matter how much I dislike Charlotte now, I don't think that was the wrong decision. I don't look back at that match unfavorably. Like, it just, like, now she can't do that. It doesn't matter who wins at WrestleMania. Ronda wins, who cares? Charlotte wins, what's the point? Like, no matter how good technically the match would have been, it won't be better than a Becky Ronda match, because there's just reason to care. The same way, yeah, like maybe Cena had a better technical match with Rusev at WrestleMania, but you know, his match with The Rock was amazing, not because how good it was technically, but because you fucking cared. Like, there was two characters to care about, and you could believe they hate each other, and like, you want to see that match. Whereas like, there isn't that with Charlotte. Also, and again, I'm getting on a tangent, but like,
we don't do tangents.
Yeah, you know, so very first time ever getting on a tangent here, but the way this match was set up was like atrocious. It was so bad. I don't know I know you didn't see it, Rev, but like, I don't know if you saw it, James, but like, you know, they hype up all night that Ronda's coming out. Charlotte comes out first for the main event segment. Sonya Deville comes out and says, oh, Ronda made a decision. She chose Becky, and they're going to sign the contract on Monday. So Charlotte, since, you know, she didn't pick you, you can pick your WrestleMania opponent, which, you know, sounds like weird, but like, it's way worse than you think, because Charlotte entered the Rumble so she can win and pick her WrestleMania opponent, but she did not win. But she still gets to pick her WrestleMania opponent in the segment. So she picks Sasha Banks, which, you know, seemed like the WrestleMania direction before Ronda's name was ever mentioned of coming back. And then she cut a promo on Sasha, who wasn't there and didn't come out. And then Ronda comes out and picks Charlotte. So all that was for nothing. It wasn't even like a swerve, because it was just a lie. And it was just
a waste of time.
It was like, oh, we want you to think she's gonna pick Becky, even though she's for sure coming out and she hasn't come out. It was so dumb. It made Sasha look bad. It makes everyone look bad. It made everyone look dumb.
It makes Sonya Deville look bad. Like,
yeah,
weirdly.
It made Naomi look terrible, because Ronda beat up Sonya after this, and Naomi's been not beating up Sonya for 7 fucking months because she's an authority figure.
Wait, did she have the jacket on?
She did have the jacket on.
What the fuck?
So it's just
suspend her.
Fucking,
through Mania.
It's fucking terrible. But
then we don't have to have this match.
Anyway, fucking actual guard. I was so excited for Ronda to be back just 2 weeks ago, and it's so crazy how far I've come in a week and a half. But
it was like the one good thing that came out of the Rumble, that Ronda was back. We were probably going to get a one-on-one match with Becky, and now it's gone, just up in smoke.
So, you know, that's that. But I guess a great segue, because we're talking about WrestleMania already so much, but there are like so many plans up in the air for WrestleMania this year. You know, we're going to have Charlotte Ronda, which, you know, what do you freaking do? We're going to have Roman versus Brock, which I posted a great video about on our Instagram page. It's the 3rd WrestleMania we're getting this match. I can't remember a time when this wasn't happening. Other than that, I mean, we're going to get Becky versus Bianca. That's like 100% happening. But all the WrestleMania plans are up in the air. And, you know, for WWE, that seems like the norm lately, but WrestleMania was always the exception. Like, week to week, who the fuck knows what's going on? But WrestleMania was always, the big matches were always planned out months in advance. Usually by November, you start getting teases, which means before that, they were already like penciled in. But now everything's up in the air. AJ Styles, who the fuck knows what he's going to do at WrestleMania? Like, Seth Rollins, not sure what he's going to do at WrestleMania. Kevin Owens, who the fuck knows what he's going to do at WrestleMania? Like, yeah, we could get those two in a match together. We could get them against RK Bro. We're just not sure. Bobby Lashley is the WWE champion, and there's part of me that thinks he might not even be on the WrestleMania card at this rate. Like, that's fucking nothing. If Lesnar wins the title of Elimination Chamber, what the fuck does Bobby Lashley do? If Bobby Lashley retains the WWE title of Elimination Chamber, who the fuck does he face? There is nothing. There's no obvious direction. There's nothing of note. And funny enough, Shane McMahon being fired had something to do with that, because he was reportedly going to have a big match at Mania and be one of the featured, you know, part-timers coming back, you know, because Undertaker is supposedly retired. You know, part of me thinks he's coming back now because they're running out of big names.
God, no.
Maybe Goldberg has another match at WrestleMania. Who the fuck knows at this point? It's really, it's not, you can't predict it, and not in a good way. It's not like oh man, who knows what they're going to do? It's so exciting. It's who knows what they could do, and what could they even do that would be interesting? It's really come to this. Honestly, best case scenario is Owens and Rollins face RK Bro, and it'll be the best fucking build to Mania by far. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, first, I want to get the perspective of the guy who doesn't watch anyway. So it's for him, of course, who the fuck knows what's going to go on in WrestleMania, but podcast guy too. What's your take? Can you laugh at this this lack of organization going on in WWE right now?
Podcast guy too, Electric Boogaloo. Yeah, I like how WWE has exactly as much of an idea of what's going to happen at WrestleMania as I do, and I don't watch the product. That's really, really, really fucking bad. I understand the Shane thing kind of through, you know, wrenching things, but the amount of disarray in this company at the moment, and it's obviously been shown for a while now, it's just astounding. They've, like you said, Danny, they almost always have WrestleMania booked out months in advance. There are times when they've had certain matches booked out for a year. Say hello, John Cena and The Rock. There are times where they're setting things up by SummerSlam. You know, the Daniel Bryan John Cena match, and then Orton cashes in with Triple H turning. Like, they plan things for a long time, usually for Mania. And you get it sprinkled throughout the year, and then, like you said, shit starts ramping up around, you know, late November, early December. They haven't a fucking clue. They are so lost. I mean, everybody you just named, and I know I don't watch, but I do my best to keep up. I couldn't even tell you who they could face. I really couldn't. The only thing I know that's going to happen is Brock is facing Roman, Charlotte's facing Ronda, and that's it. And quite frankly, I don't care about either of those two things that much. Really hope Brock doesn't win the WWE title, because I don't want to see a unification, or as we've been calling it, the U word, because we just don't want it to happen. So this is a shit show. Somebody needs to get in there and get their shit together, because if they continue like this, it's going to start looking like late era WCW over there. And that is literally the worst possible scenario.
Yeah. So with the two matches we know are going to happen, they're both going to main event, which I've already said, but that just means I get to stop watching early. So our live recap of WrestleMania, it's going to be happening before the show ends, because I'm going to be done. Like,
then it's going to be on early, and the rest of us are going to hop on after the last
match. Like, I'm just going to be here and like talking about everything else, and then just assuming the main events both suck. So, you know, and one report that I believe it was Meltzer, but it could have been SRS. Who knows? The wrestling journalists of the world said that, you know, a lot of the backstage vibe right now is that it doesn't matter. Like, Vince only cares about what like 4 people are doing, and let's be real here. You can assume that those 4 people are Roman, Brock, Becky, Charlotte. Ronda. Actually, you could throw Ronda in there too now, but like
I think he cares more about Ronda than Becky.
Yeah, it's but
at least he knows what they're doing though, so that kind of makes life easier.
Yeah, well, the Becky direction, I think Becky's WrestleMania match has been it's been penciled in since SummerSlam, so it's always been Bianca, but it's not that surprising because back in the day, Vince reportedly would come in and just be, okay, what's Austin doing, and then that was all that matters. But he would focus so much on Austin, but then he would trust other people to figure out what everyone else is doing, whereas now he doesn't trust other people, but he also doesn't care what other people are doing on the show, so that everything just feels sort of directionless. James, you're, from what I can tell, a responsible person. How would you manage this clusterfuck?
I think at this point, one, we got to recognize that WWE only cares about the main event title scene. And even then, like, as we've already said, it's really just a few people in that title scene that they actually care about. Everyone else is interchangeable. The mid card is non-existent. The Intercontinental title is an afterthought. The US title has some heat to it because at least they're doing something with Damian Priest, but
not anymore. I think he's done. He's lost twice in a month now. I think he's done. His push is over.
It also just took me 30 seconds to remember who the IC title holder was. It's still Shinsuke, right?
Yeah, it's still Shinsuke.
He hasn't defended in like a year.
Yeah. WWE is a marquee show now. Just like UFC, just like boxing events, they care about the main event. That's what they're going to promote to get people to show up. And then the undercard could be literally anything as far as they're concerned. They don't need to put the effort into it because that's not what they think is going to draw people in. And I disagree. I love mid-card feuds. I love undercard stuff, but that's just their mentality. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And it's a shame. And I think there are so many ways that you could present certain people, but and it's something we've talked about multiple times in the past. WWE's presentation of their guys is abysmal because they care more about the brand being successful than any of their stars getting bigger. No one is booked in a way that is enticing for me to care about. It's you win one, you lose one. Austin Theory beat Kevin Owens last week to qualify for the Elimination Chamber, and then Kevin Owens beats him this week. Why am I supposed to think Austin Theory belongs in the Elimination Chamber? Or for that matter, if Kevin Owens got the spot, why am I supposed to believe he belongs in the Elimination Chamber? No one is booked in a way that I can care about. And it's really tough because there's so much talent in WWE. We talk about how WWE stockpile talent for so long. Even with all of the releases, they still have a crazy amount of talent on their roster, but none of them are booked to be exciting. So I don't know how you fix this problem other than just a complete overhaul of how you book, but that ain't happening. Not for Mania.
I'm going to push back on you a little bit here on the UFC thing because they do have a mid card. It exists, and it just works differently than WWE's because there's no mid card titles. It's just the weight class title. But they do it smartly where for the pay-per-views they have the prelims on ESPN and there's a main event prelim on ESPN, and that's usually a good match. It's either some like a name that people know who's like not in the title picture in the moment, like Dominic Cruz usually ends up in those types of matches, to name a guy, or it's an up and comer that's like on a knockout streak that they want to help build his brand, and then the undercard on the pay-per-view is usually people fighting for number one contender spots, or like the number 5 versus number 6 ranked guy in the division or girl in the division, like people working their way up. So like it makes sense. They have a mid card and they use it to build people, whereas WWE just doesn't. It's just there. And like you said, they just trade wins back and forth and nobody gives a shit.
Well, let me clarify what I meant by that. I know that an event like a UFC pay-per-view will have an undercard. But what I mean is you don't see those guys on the poster. You're going there for, like, they're selling their pay-per-views to see, like, who's going to be in the championship match. That's how they sell themselves.
Yeah, you get your top three matches, like
exactly.
You get your main, your co-main, and like it's like they have two big names fighting on the third.
So for WWE, that's what they've become. They don't need to book an undercard. They're trying to sell Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. They're trying to sell Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. To them, if you get other matches out of it, you should be grateful.
See, they could do that and still do the mid card, right? And they just don't. And they could be building stars that way to at least lend, credible challengers to these people, but they don't. And it's just a shit show in the middle. And eventually, just be like, all right, you're facing Roman, you're gonna lose now. And then Kevin Owens gets catapulted up to the main event for a month and a half, and then you throw him back in the muck.
Or, perfect example is just Big E, who unceremoniously got traded to SmackDown and is back in a tag team.
Absolutely.
But,
at least it's a new day.
It just feels kind of, it's deflating.
Oh, it definitely is. I'm just saying, at least he had somewhere fun to go and not just, in a tag team with Bobby Roode.
Damn.
Sorry, Bobby.
I mean, he's probably they'll probably lose to that team, even though they're on different brands. Anyway, Dolph Ziggler will probably be the next NXT champion. But speaking of NXT, we're going to end on a fun one. It's so dumb, but it's fun. So NXT had a show last night, and NXT isn't real. It's like a figment of all of our imaginations. It's this thing that it was a good dream we used to have, and it's just kind of turned into a bad dream. But they have decided to do something a little different this past episode, and they had cameramen enter the ring during matches to get different angles and I guess give it more of cinematic sort of feel. And I'm sure on TV it looks kind of cool and interesting, but if I am a fan and I'm watching this, I've attended the event, I bought a ticket, and the fucking cameraman is in the ring, I am going to immediately be taken out of the experience. I think it's ridiculous, and someone's gonna get hurt. So I feel like it's just kind of insulting to the people that are there, and you're asking a lot for the wrestlers. And I think it's pretty bold to do that with the developmental wrestlers. But anyway, we have a guy who, used to be an apologist for NXT, but he's seen the colorful lights and he has kind of changed his tune a little bit. So podcast guy number 4, what's your take on this hilarious development going on in developmental?
It is a mess. It shouldn't happen. And like a lot of bad WWE ideas, I don't think it's going to last long. I think they're going to do it for a few weeks. It's going to...
I think 2 when it's done.
What was that?
I think 2 weeks and it's done.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to last long. And I just hope that by the time it is done, nobody gets injured. And I hope I don't attend an NXT show while it's happening.
Yeah, good luck. Don't accidentally end up there, man. I feel bad.
Yeah, I gotta agree with James. I think this is gonna last up until somebody either gets hurt or it gets really close. But I mean, I think what they're trying to do here is bring back the cinematic style match they had with Randy and was it Edge at WrestleMania? And it's just not going to work because someone's going to get hurt, like James said. So I'm not here for it. I haven't obviously even seen the angle, so I don't really care. But while I find it cool, you're trying to innovate a bit, you're going to get somebody killed, and it's just not worth it. I hope they up their insurance before they started this, though.
Yeah, and there's just better ways to do it. I don't know, it just takes you out of it. That's a cool shot for a movie or a TV show, but for like the actual like sport, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
it takes you out of it because you just can't believe that like if you're in a fight with someone, you're not gonna work around the cameraman, you know?
This is like in the OG XFL. Vince had cameramen on the field, and they had to put them in pads and stuff. And a couple of times they got fucking rocked, and it was so dangerous.
Okay, that kind of sounds hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, but
I mean, it was kind of funny. Is this or is this not the XFL? Like, but like, it's just so dumb. Yeah, like you want to try to create new camera angles. Cool. Like AEW has the cameras on the top of the ring post, and I think WWE even did that for a while. And
yeah.
those are cool. Maybe if you want to try to get one in a turnbuckle somehow without like it hurting the guys. I don't know how you do it, but you know, like go for it. Get your R&D department on it. But guys in the ring, it's just dumb. Get the wire cam and have that float around. That was Vince's idea too in the XFL. You know, try to figure out something like that. Don't put people in the ring. Someone's gonna get killed.
I don't know. Like we're baseball guys, and like, you know, they got so many great angles in baseball. I actually think it's like they get some of the best angles, and they only cut like, you know, when the ball is in motion. They always cut to the right angle in baseball, and I think wrestling can learn a lot from that. But like they have their set camera like angles, and you know, WWE wants to add some, just get better cameras that can get these angles from further away. Like, you know, hit up the Houston Astros and ask them for one of their cameras and fucking and you'll be good to go. Like I don't understand. Like Carlos Beltran's not a hard guy to reach, you know?
I mean, a Fox for baseball, like they have cameras, at least for the playoffs, in the bases, under the dirt, in front of the plate.
Yeah.
Like they have cameras all over the place. Like see if they can figure out, put one in the mat or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, see if Fox can help you out. But again, they don't have anybody on the field when the ball's in play, you know,
exactly,
because someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Control it. Like and the ring is so much smaller than all these other sports and their fields / courts. Like there's only so much room for the cameraman to go. And
yeah, it's like 20 by 20 or 22 by 22, depending on the promotion. Like it's not big.
Like what if it's a ladder match? Like, and you have all this other shit in the ring. Like what if it's like a 6-man like ladder match? Like you're gonna have all these bodies and ladders in the ring and a camera guy. Cameras are expensive. You're really gonna put that, you know, let's take the human safety element aside. You're gonna put these cameras in a situation where they're gonna fucking fall and break, and yeah, it's just
or even
just silly.
If you watch like Elimination Chamber or Hell in a Cell, they will put guys in the structures, but they're, you know, I guess Elimination Chamber, it's all kind of even, but they're not in the ring. They're still on the floor, and Hell in a Cell, they're still on the floor, and they still almost get in the way all the fucking time. Like they're still almost getting hit. So if they're that close to the action on those and it's too tight, how bad do you think the ring is going to be?
Right. The referees are in the ring and they are somewhat aware of the choreography going on, and they still get in the way sometimes, and they're not holding a heavy ass camera on their shoulders when they do it. Like and that's not even to say that the cameramen can't fucking like do it, and they're very used to walking. Hell, they have to walk down backwards on the ramp when people make their entrances. Like, you know, they're very good at their job, but like cameras have wires and they're heavy, and wrestlers are bouncing in the ring, and it's a disaster waiting to happen, no matter how good the wrestler is too. Really
and to the point on the refs, look how hurt they get when wrestler touches them. Like they're down for like 20 minutes after they get hit.
Yeah, you know, you think a cameraman suffered? I mean, cameramans are, when they fall, they get right back up. Like they're a little bit tougher than referees, which is weird, but you know, I don't know. I just think it's kind of silly, but
I get what they're trying to do, but like use your brain for more than 2 seconds.
Props
and
for being creative, you know, but there are better ways. You know, just put them on the ring post. Like just
I mean, we just thought of 4, like, you know, at least to, you know, figure out.
Yeah. Or just have someone. Okay, this is terrible. I shouldn't say this, but bring back Big Boss Man. You know, he's a police officer. Have him as a modern day police officer, and you can have a body cam, and then there you go. You got all these new angles.
Well, I was gonna say, the NFL has been putting cameras on refs' heads. Throw one on the ref. Throw a GoPro on the ref's head.
I would love that. That would actually be pretty cool.
Yeah, boxing's been doing it too. Actually, boxing has been using body cameras and putting them on the referee's chest. And I know it's a little more difficult to capture some action because boxing's a little more, I don't want to say standing around, but it's a little more static than wrestling is.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of a match, guys, collar and elbow tie up or something like that. It's a cool angle to throw out there at the beginning of the match. Try something like that.
Yeah. And then who knows? Maybe when the referee's counting the pin, maybe get a good shot there too. And there's so much.
Probably
more.
On the floor. So, but if you have it on their head, and they're looking,
yeah. And ultimately the referees, we don't pay too much attention to them. So if they started wearing like silly like head cameras and shit, like we'd get used to it quickly. So
yeah.
I don't know. Like I guess it's cool that they're trying something new, but it's just one of those ones where it's obviously a bad idea, and we're just brainstorming here, and we thought of some comparable or better options. So we'll see. And ultimately, this is just dumb. It's just kind of silly. There's just NXT 2.0 being NXT 2.0, and this is why we don't watch. But
Chad does, or podcast guy 3.
Poor guy. There's a reason he needed some time off this week, and it's because NXT is fucking daunting right now. But
shout out Chad though.
Yeah. Good luck with best wishes and goodwill with everything going on. But I just wanted to end on a less like serious story. So that's all we got time for this week, guys. We ran the gauntlet of really just 3 things, but that's just all there was in the wrestling world. All shitty things. I barely count this one, so that's why I'm saying like 3.
Touche.
But anyway, I've been Podcast Guy. Thanks Podcast Guy 2 for being here with me. Thanks Podcast Guy 4. Do you have anything else you want to say, Podcast Guy 4? I guess not. All right. Yeah, we've just defeated him. He's worn out. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, he probably is asleep. I don't see him on camera, so he's probably just sleeping. But thank you for watching. Please check out whatever fast forward we have next. Will probably be my Raw fast forward.
James probably will do an Impact one tomorrow, but we'll see.
Well, it'll be yesterday probably by the time.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why.
But go watch that one anyway. It's a good way to keep up on Impact without having to watch, and especially with all the AW stuff now with Jay White and everything, it's probably a good idea to go check that out as well.
Yeah, and James needs it. He's had a rough podcast. He needs some support.
Well tuckered out.
But thank you for watching. Please subscribe on YouTube. James is dreaming of rapping right now, so please help us hit that 100 mark. We're getting there. We're inching closer. But subscribe, check us out on social medias. That's pretty much it. But thank you for watching. I've been, like I said, Podcast Guy, and for all my other podcast guys, have an okay day. Just okay.